Do you hear that? Come on. I don't even know if he left or not. Hello and welcome to this week's, not an album review, an EP review. A good friend of mine, Nikki Pararuan, dropped his first EP titled PARA-RUAN, which is available now, streaming on all platforms, Apple Music, TIDAL, Spotify. And yeah, I wanted to talk about it a little bit. I actually was going to drop this before we recorded the podcast, but the timing kind of worked out the opposite, where we recorded Monday and I'm recording this today, which is Thursday, and this will be out tomorrow, which is Friday. So the timing kind of worked out better because I got to pick his brain a little bit on the podcast and kind of get more information out of it, which is now available on my channel as well as Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So if you want to check that out, I definitely recommend it if you want to get some more insight on the album. I say some insight because we kind of were, a little inebriated and kind of drifted off into God knows what, but it's always a good time talking to Nikki, and I was very excited to listen to this project. So I actually had a chance to hear these a while ago. I just hadn't listened to them in a minute. He actually dropped this the 19th of January, so it's been off about a week now. And yeah, let's get into it. Little background on Nikki. He is a Houston artist. He is a part of the Houston band Diptera, which is coming on pretty strong within this year. I've seen them plenty of times, taken plenty of photos of them. I mean, if you go to my Instagram and you scroll down, you'll definitely see some photos of Ian, Max, Mufasa, as well as Nikki. I believe they started making music all together in around 2021 or 2022. I was looking at the photo that I took, and I think that's from 2022 or maybe 2021, but the latter half of 2021. I remember seeing their first show at Raven Tower. It was really good set. And they've been killing it ever since. But let's go ahead and talk about this EP real quick. Let's start off with the first track titled Don't Wait. It reminds me of, I don't know, scenes of people walking, or I could see like a montage or an opening scene of a movie where someone's walking out somewhere. It feels kind of, I don't want to say necessarily cinematic, but it reminds me of like people and humans. Which I'm not sure if Nikki was going for that or not, but that's what it reminded me of. The second song is called Bash, which is probably my favorite on the album. It's more chaotic, more kind of my vibe, a little more experimental at the start of the track, and then it kind of moves into real smooth and settles in real nice, which is kind of how I feel the whole EP resonated with me. At least it represented change in sound. I love how it would go high and then low in terms of sonically, how the song will kind of start off like very abrasive and then kind of relax. It reminded me of like making decisions, honestly. Like if you make like a sporadic decision, then you have to settle into the decision you made and then move into the consequences or the benefits of it. I also really enjoyed the drums on this track. Shout out to Andy Gray, who Nikki was telling me a little bit about when he came over Monday, who took care of most of the drums, I think, on this project. No, Mac, shout out to Max Salazar, also did some of the drums on the album or EP. I keep saying album, but on the EP. But yeah, I really like the drums. I like the consistency in it, and also the how like sequential it feels. I don't know if that's the right term or word, but the repetition of it reminds me of, again, kind of like not moshing necessarily, but it reminds me of like organized chaos, if that makes sense. I don't know. It gave me a really nice vibe that I stuck with, and I'm definitely saving it. I definitely want to use it in something, whether it be me making like a short film or something. I want to use it in a bit. So Nikki, if you're watching, let me know. After that, we have Is It Today, which is probably the most accessible song on here, I think, in terms of like where people I think would go to, just because it's the first song that has vocals, which I assume are from Nikki, because I looked at the credits on Apple Music and it said that Nikki did the backing vocals. So hey, my boy got some pipes on him as well. Shout out. But yeah, I think that's the one people probably will go to the most, just because of the lyrics, and they can kind of actually like sing along to it, or even it's just a really soothing track. And the guitar sounds so clear. I mean, Nikki is a guitar player, so I assume the guitars are going to be solid on here, which they are. But this track in particular, I feel like I could hear the wood in the guitar, you know what I'm saying? I could feel the weight of it. I don't know, I felt the most texture on this song for sure. After that, we have the song Wraith, which Nikki actually told me this is the oldest recording, I believe, on the EP. He said he kind of recorded this back in 2020. When he had a place with Max, who's a drummer in Diptera, as well as like a longtime friend of Nikki and myself. Shout out to Max. Yeah, so I believe this is when they first kind of moved in together and they were kind of messing around with sounds. So this is the oldest recording. It actually has a credit for my boy Jesus Tovar. Shout out to Jesus, which I thought was really, really nice. Just seeing like Max's name, Nikki's name, and then Jesus' name on credits on Apple Music is like insane. Because like I said, I've seen these guys perform so often live, even back then when they had their old band. But to have like something super readily accessible that I could play like on my TV, no problem. And I could do that with the other stuff, the files that he would send me and kind of give me a little sneak peek. But this is way different. I could totally send this song to my brother, send it to a friend, and kind of spread out the message of Diptera or this EP. Actually, this song also has a little bit of backing vocals as well in the track. Also, shout out to Brandon Willis, I believe, who played the piano on this song. Really, really nice. Probably the most low-key song on the EP. And I felt like it was like kind of a, I don't want to say interlude, but it's a good transition to the last track, which I love the name of the last track. If it means what I think it means. But yeah, back to Wraith, just a real mellow track. And honestly, on this song, I kind of feel the change the most, you know, especially getting the background information of Nikki recording this back in 2020. He first moved out, a lot of things, different things happening, coronavirus happening, and just kind of dealing with all that stuff. And I feel like you can hear it on the track, you know what I'm saying? Me, obviously knowing him personally, I could hear it more, but it just sounds like a very, very low-key song. I could totally, again, hear like a protagonist in a movie on a beach, or you know what I mean, like a slight little montage of someone like walking down the street after an event happening, you know what I'm saying, after like the end of the movie. This is the kind of person just kind of wrapping things up and walking around and kind of like reflecting. It's a very reflective track. And the last song, JTG, which I can only assume is an ode to one half of one of the greatest tag teams of all time, Crime Time. Grab a 40, check your rollie. It's Crime Time. I'm gonna assume it's that, because I vaguely remember Nikki saying something that he used to pick JTG in SmackDown vs. Raw, or Max used to pick JTG in SmackDown vs. Raw. I can't remember, but JTG definitely was like a thing that he would say, or Max would say, back in 2020 or 2021. Last track of the EP, he has that kind of middle part in each of these songs where like, again, to me, it's representing change, representing reflection or transformation, if you will, and get a little philosophical on it. But there's kind of that middle point in each song, I noticed, that where it will kind of morph into something else, or I don't want to say morph into, but kind of transition to something else, which I really enjoy. I like when songs are not stagnant, you know? Knowing how good Nikki is, he could have easily put out like a jam session or something like that, and it would have been good because he's really, really good at guitar. But the fact that he took the time to kind of think each of these songs out, and you could tell that he took the time to think each of these songs out, it really, really shows, especially on a track like this, JTG, which for whatever reason, it always reminds me of the first song. I don't know why. They're two totally different songs, so I don't know why, but the first song and the last song, I thought he kind of brought it around really well, where it's to the point where like, I won't get them confused, but it definitely reminds me of each other. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this week's EP review. Go ahead and stream PARA-RUAN on Apple Music, Spotify, as well as TIDAL. I have his links in the description box. You could also follow him on Instagram and follow Diptera on Instagram as well. If you're in the Houston scene, the Houston music scene, I definitely recommend seeing Diptera. I'm sure they'll do some songs from this EP as well. I know they do some of Mufasa's solo stuff, which is also really, really good. You should check that out. Just a different band. They sound different. To me, they don't sound like any other band. I'm always looking for originality, and these guys definitely bring it. I didn't get a chance to say this to Nikki when he was here, but very proud of you, brother. If you're watching this, I'm sure you are. From seeing your first show at Walters back in, that had to be, 2012, I think? And you guys were playing like hard thrash metal back then, you know what I'm saying? To kind of see you do that, and then morph into like a more jazzy, funky kind of vibe, and then morph into this, which is much more like, to me at least, experimental music, which I'm a huge fan of. It's really, really nice to see, man. It's nice to see you growing, and I'm curious to where this is going to take you, you know, whether it be 2-3 years from now, what kind of music you guys are going to be making. We're proud of you, brother. Well, that's going to do it for this week's EP review, guys. Like I said, if you have a chance, I highly recommend streaming this album. I would also like to recommend the podcast me and Nikki did that was released yesterday. Like I said, it kind of gives you more of a little insight to the album and the production of it. As well as just getting to know Nikki better as like a person. We talk jujitsu, we talk pro wrestling, we talk UFC, we talk a whole bunch of things, movies. It's always a good time having him on. He was actually the first guest on the podcast. He's episode 1, and he's the latest episode, which I think is 63. So be sure to stream that. It's on the channel. If you're subscribed, please subscribe, leave a like, do the little bell thing. I don't know, man. I feel like nobody's saying. I've been watching YouTube videos recently, and no one is saying that anymore. So please turn on the bell, and you'll see any video that I drop. But that's gonna do it, guys. I'll see you next week. Till next time, adios.